Today we're taking a look at the Edgar, another super ship coming into the game, unfortunately through the early access auction, but in a few patches we'll all be able to access this ship, of course through the Minotaur line. This ship shows some promise, honestly. I think that if you enjoy the Minotaur, you're probably going to enjoy the Edgar. It's just a bigger, better version. And this time we do get a gimmick. There is not a standard vanilla tier 11 like we had with the Patrie here. There is an alternative fire mode, which we'll talk about in a little bit. First, I wanted to talk about my Marseille video from last week. That video was done in Arms Race, and I didn't mention that I was playing Arms Race there since it was more of a first impressions video, just talking about the ship. But rightfully so, you guys brought up in the comments that I should mention that Arms Race does have more damage output and potential to get a lot more damage. So let me know in the comments down below, should I be not playing Arms Race at all in these videos, or should I just be disclosing it up front, or do you not care? Let me know in the comments below. I'll probably end up putting up a poll on YouTube if I don't forget yet today, and I'd love to hear your feedback because that's very interesting to me. Personally, I'm not really one who's fond of Arms Race, and you probably won't see too many games from Arms Race, honestly, but just let me know. I really would like to hear your opinion. Back to the Edgar, though, we had a bit of an underwhelming salvo there onto the Annapolis. We used our burst fire, which gives us 100% better penetration and 50% better damage. Unfortunately, though, it seems to not be particularly good against spaced armor. So against ships that don't have spaced armor like a Zhao, yeah, we might absolutely crush this man. Unfortunately, my lack of experience in Minotaur shows through, at least in this game. But we do dev strike a Zhao at 9 kilometers, which is pretty good. The burst fire mechanic here really is to make you feel like a heavy cruiser, right? That's really what this one is doing. You still have the DPM of the light cruiser Minotaur, still have the giant citadel weakness, as we can see. But if you're a better Minotaur player than I am, you shouldn't have many issues working around that. Of course, this ship does have worse maneuverability overall compared to the Minotaur, just felt bigger and more sluggish. The acceleration still feels pretty good, but as far as its turning rate, rudder shift, and, well, being able to stop in a smoke, for example, yeah, all those things are still not all that amazing on the Edgar. So you do have to watch out how you position this ship, but you Minotaur players know that better than I do. Unfortunately for this Shima, he decides to rush us, and that's probably not the best idea. It's kind of strange, though, having a burst fire mechanic that makes your ship function more like a heavy cruiser than a light cruiser. The burst seems to be, at least in the past, something that's reserved for a quick, short burst of high damaging salvos, whereas Edgar, like Minotaur, already has an amazing reload. So the high damage part comes through, but using this gimmick or this burst fire mode is something that you really got to pay attention to. Do you want to give up that DPM for a pretty extended amount of time? It's like a 30-second reload to get a few salvos out there. It's like 3 salvos or something like that. There are definitely times to use it, times where you have a broadside cruiser that doesn't have a lot of spaced armor. Let's keep that in mind. There's a bunch of spaced armor, you're gonna struggle, I think, to Citadel and Dev Strike some of these cruisers. Notice I'm not switching to the burst mode at this Venezia at longer ranges. He decides to angle relatively quickly, I would say, and we were doing some pretty good damage already. I think that's gonna be a really challenging part of playing this ship. I don't really know the right answer yet, as I haven't played too many games in the Edgar yet, but assuming a Moskva, for example, goes broadside to you, I think hit the button and see what happens. I don't think that outside of 12 kilometers, 13 kilometers, you're going to really have amazing success. I'm looking for that 200 millimeter pen threshold. And for the Edgar, assuming we're getting that boost, that's around that 12 kilometer range where we're getting 200 millimeters of pen with this 100% boost. And while the Hanover absolutely nukes that Moskva, we were getting some citadels there as he was turning broadside. So a very powerful gimmick and burst salvo fire on the Edgar, but It's very, very situational, much more so than something like the Annapolis or the Conde, for example. This is something that you're really gonna have to weigh the pros and cons of using because you have such amazing DPM already. That's really the massive strength of this ship and the whole line, where the AP hits really, really hard, assuming you're catching some broadsides. And given that these shells are pretty light at longer ranges, they can come in and do some pretty good plunging fire as well, as hopefully we'll be able to see on this Lion. This game is wrapping up here. It did come down to the wire at the end. Unfortunately, the end really consisted a lot of just running around and capping things, so I won't end up showing you guys that, but I will show you the last little bit of excitement that we see. This Yamagiri, yeah, he goes broadside. No use of the gimmick, the burst fire here. We're just going to use the raw DPM to try and deal with this guy. And you'll notice one other really interesting thing about the Edgar. It's got 360-degree turrets. So no more waiting. Well, not that you really had to wait in the Minotaur with how fast those turrets are, but no waiting at all for your turrets to be on target. They're constantly going to be aiming where your mouse is pointing. It's just the superstructure or a few of the other turrets that are going to get in the way of you shooting, and that's really it. So a cool thing, I don't really know how much it helps this ship, given how good Minotaur turret traverse was, but it's there. It's pretty cool. And lastly, I should really mention the torpedoes. I haven't used them too much, but 12 kilometers is very, very usable at tier 10, especially given this concealment, sub 10 kilometer concealment. It's really, really good. Alongside the Minotaur, of course, you can slot radar in place of your smoke screen. So if you're really good at positioning or you just enjoy that radar Minotaur lifestyle, you can definitely do that in the Edgar as well. I think it might be a little more challenging given that this ship doesn't gain a ton of DPM over the Minotaur, and it's a pretty big, clumsy target to hit. I think it might be even a little harder to play radar Edgar than it is to play radar Minotaur. And this Conde, as he's pushing in, we were going to get some pretty good damage on this guy. Unfortunately, he does manage to go dark, and, well, he actually ends up turning away. And that's it. That's the last time I'm going to shoot in this entire game. What I ended up doing was going and capping the C-cap, and then we just won on points. So even though I think that this was a very interesting game that kind of came down to the wire by the end, they did manage to kill two or three more of our ships. The points advantage won us the game in the end. Edgar seems very, very interesting to me, though. Unfortunately, the Patrie is more interesting for me personally, so I don't see myself getting the Edgar anytime soon. Certainly not putting down millions of credits on the auction. As for the build that I'm running, I think it's reasonably standard. Again, I'm not an expert on this ship, but I did want concealment, took things like top grade gunner, right? We'd definitely want superintendent, extra HP to try and keep us alive, and of course, adrenaline rush. And then I just dumped some points into the torps, hoping that I would make more use out of them. I haven't yet made a ton of use out of the torps, but I do think they could be very, very good. They hit pretty hard, have a good reload, and of course, 12 kilometers of range makes them very, very useful. Here's the upgrades on the Edgar that I was using. Double concealment here. You could consider running concealment on the commander and then going steering gears here to improve the maneuverability. As you can see, 9-second rudder with a ship with a citadel this big, it can be rough. But if you played Minotaur, you're probably used to that. A little bit better maneuverability on the Minotaur, but you're probably used to it by this point. Surveillance radar is an option, 10 kilometer, 40 second. Same kind of radar. Personally, went with smokescreen just because it's a little bit easier to play, and I don't have the most experience playing radar Minotaur. It can definitely work though, and I think on Edgar it can also work. It'll just be a little bit more challenging since you're a tier higher, and all you really gain then is an extra gun on that radar. Overall, it's a pretty interesting ship, but let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.